today. So without further delay, I would like to give the word to successively Rajendra and Harsh Gandhi for the first part of this meeting. And we'll hear from Tom Marshall in the second part. As you have seen, Rajendra and Harsh are the CEOs and business owners of a very innovative company that started at a time when recycling and the circular economy was not even in the news or was not even mentioned. And so I would like to give them the word about their experience. And we'll then split into groups after that to exchange a few ideas about what they said. So Rajendra, if you would like to come in now.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, friends. Thank you, Anton, for inviting and giving us an opportunity to share our story on this dialogue on the meaning of sustainability. I believe that there comes a moment in one's life which becomes the turning point. For me, that moment came when over 50 years ago, I learned about moral rearmament, which was the earlier name for the current worldwide movement of initiatives of change. IFC or MRA challenged me then as a collegian to experiment with the simple but powerful idea that if you want to see the world change, the best place is to start with yourself. Through IFC, I learned about the power of the inner listening, courage of conviction, etc. After graduating as a metallurgical engineer, I joined my family textile business. But soon, in my time of quiet reflection, I had a compelling thought to step out of the comfort of the family business and to start something of my own. Around this time, I came across an article which talked about how for a developing economy like India, recycling had a bright future. I began to take interest and soon found out that recycling offered following propositions. It offers employment opportunities, it reduces dependency on virgin resources, it helps convert a potentially hazardous waste into a useful raw material. It has the potential to earn foreign exchange. These propositions became the motivating factors to identify a recycling project. There were seeds of sustainability in these propositions, but the word sustainability was not there at that time. After some due diligence and after interacting with an industry stalwart, I decided to set up the business of recycling of end-of-life tires. The process involved was pulverizing the end-of-life tires, separation of steel, fiber, etc., subjecting the rubber powder and the additives to heat to break the polymer chains, and the resultant product, which comes in the sheet form called reclaimed rubber, is then mixed by the customers along with the new rubbers to make a fresh rubber tire or other similar rubber product. One of the challenges then was that I needed a permit to import machinery required for the production of reclaimed rubber. Since getting a permit involved unethical practice in India during that period, I had a crazy idea in my time of quiet to instead build these machines in India. While pursuing this thought in faith, I took the support of a rubber technologist to help me design and build these machines for my company. With a lot of sweat, financial support from my family and bankers, we finally commissioned first line with our own designed and built machines in 1978. It took us over 3 years to to overcome all the teething troubles in our equipment. One of the key decisions I took then was to keep the process labor intensive so that I could offer jobs to the needy. We started making profit by the year 1982. While profit brought relief to my family, my bankers, and my shareholders, my own joy came from having succeeded in starting a business based on right motives. After 1982, our endeavor was to plow back the profits to expand our production capacity through multiple locations. We committed ourselves to work with leading tire manufacturers to earn their trust. This meant convincing them about our business practices and our commitment to offer them a standard and a consistent product from so many different makes of the end-of-life tires. Another focus was to ensure that while we were converting the hazardous waste into a useful raw material, we had a process which itself was not non-polluting or was not polluting. We also wanted to develop a trustworthy relationship with our vendors, whose task was to collect and bring the waste rubber and tires to our plants in a safe way. We decided to help our vendors who are mostly illiterate to follow proper business practices. We were clear that if we want to be a leader in this space, we must have the right beliefs, the right practices, and the right resolve. Two aspects of sustainability became clear to me at that point of time. One was choosing to start a business in recycling of end-of-life tires, and I and my company became a part of the solution of the sustainability of the environment. Second was that by choosing the right practices and building trust with various stakeholders, I created a sustainable business model. I now call upon Harsh, who, as a second generation entrepreneur, has helped grow the organization into new product categories across multiple geographies. Over to you, Harsh.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. And thank you, Dad, for setting the stage for my comments, just the same way that you set up the organization before I joined GRP. I think Father spoke about the legacy that kind of was established in a time when sustainability was not really a buzzword, where consciousness or focus on green materials was not really as popular. But in that difficult time, he established, the legacy of GRP for quality recycling, for a fair and transparent supply chain, and build a technology leadership which kind of provided the tailwinds for growth which were in place by the time I joined the organization. I'll talk a little bit about the journey from there on and what the opportunity going forward is for sustainable materials. But essentially at the turn of the century, of the previous century, the global awareness on use of green materials to lower dependence on fossil fuels had already started gaining a lot of traction. This, coupled with India's emergence as a reliable material supplier, provided the right impetus for our company to emerge as an industry leader, not just in India, but also internationally. Tire makers saw this material as a viable alternative, but it required, as my father said, a lot of education and trust building about the use of recycled material in a product which has a lot of liability as well as a lot of safety associated with it. Our focus through the journey remained at all times to help our customers, mainly the tire companies, in therefore fulfilling their environmental obligations and completing the circular loop. We did this effectively over a period supplying rubber to manufacturers across 52 countries. And as we kind of continued expansion into new markets, the focus on green materials gained increasingly more and more traction. We're all aware that, post the economic crisis of 2010, 2012, the spotlight on the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations, came into prominence. With this shift came about a change in the customer perception. And for future growth, we started therefore focusing on developing alternate businesses which continue to align with our core principles of sustainability. So we focused on the mobility sector, and keeping customers in the mobility sector at the center of our plans, we diversified across the value chain to expand from participating only in end-of-life waste to now offering solutions in closing the circular loop of end-of-life tires. So, for example, the businesses we set up through this process include a tire retreading business, and the objective therein was to help commercial vehicle fleet owners to extend the life of their tires by providing a second and a third life. At the end of this tire life, the rubber business buys this end-of-life tires to produce raw materials for use, again backed by the tire manufacturers. We developed yet another business which separates the nylon from the tires to produce raw material which we are selling to the engineering plastic component manufacturers in the automotive industry. And then there is the residue rubber left over from the above businesses, which is used by yet another business to blend along with recycled plastic waste. And we produce composite material which replaces wood and concrete. These applications go back into the transportation industry. So what started out as a small recycling company many years ago, where with my father guiding the business through its initial journey, has kind of transformed into becoming a sustainable materials company, if I was to use that word, and with a global footprint across 50 countries. And the end-use applications, as a result, have grown from predominantly tire manufacturers to now having fleet owners, auto component manufacturers, vehicle body manufacturers as well. Through this entire transformation, the company continues to rely on the same supply chain of waste collectors and continues to predominantly use a single source of raw material. This interdependence of businesses has actually created a huge positive impact and helped improve margins, which I believe will provide the runway for future growth. With opportunities of leveraging technology that we are all familiar with, several new initiatives to connect an unorganized supply chain with digital models, digital payment models, digital collection models. And now in the collection business, we are also seeing the advent of blockchain technology for identification and life cycle analysis of waste sources that can be applied. In a nutshell, there now exists an ecosystem to marry a robust front-end customer base to emerging opportunities in organizing waste collection. As all of us come to terms with the impact of COVID on our lives, in our economies, one thing that is very clear is the importance of socially relevant businesses. World over, stock markets and other investment firms are putting a high level of focus on ESG practices of businesses, including placing significant premium on valuations of such businesses. Our belief, therefore, is that circular economy solutions or sustainable solutions will become integrated parts of major organizations in the future. This space, in our view, will therefore provide opportunities for new business models, new startups, and therefore a lot of new entrepreneurs to venture into. We see a lot of public sentiment raking up support, various projects like the ocean cleanup that all of us are so familiar with. Or if you see the coming together of industry participants under a single umbrella, and those in Europe are familiar with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation or the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. What's sort of pleasantly surprising is that there is an increasing focus, therefore, on collaboration to make sure that this sustainable practices become mainstay in all businesses. In our own business, if I may, it is heartening to know that tire companies like Continental, Michelin, Pirelli have publicly pledged to use more and more of recycled material. This has actually been possible due to coming together with material producers such as ourselves, and also joining forces with equipment partners to come up with solutions for alternate types of materials. We're seeing similar such examples of cooperation exist among a lot of other product categories. And again, all of us are very familiar with brand owners like Unilever, Nestle, P&G, Coca-Cola, among others, coming together with material manufacturers like DSM, Dow, Exxon, along with equipment manufacturers, and finally with recyclers that will process this waste and who are collecting all this end-of-life waste. Such processing of waste to provide environmentally sustainable materials, in our view, is going to gain prominence in the days to come. So in closing, I believe that opportunity for sustainability is prevalent across most major industries. The example of how GRP has transitioned from being a small recycling company to becoming a sustainable materials company with a global footprint was to highlight to all of you that there are similar opportunities that exist in other value chains. Electronics waste, textile waste, automotive waste, etc. have a lot of parallels to draw from. Sustainable materials can play a significant role in the economy, for the ecology, and could play a significant role also in uplifting an unorganized supply chain. This is all that I have to share, and I hope that our talk has provided all of you the right inspiration to act for the future and to take small steps towards ensuring that sustainable materials become mainstay in all that we're consuming. Thank you so much for the time and the opportunity to speak to you.